Hey everyone, this is Ashley in the editor's booth. Season 5 begins in September, but rather than going dark in August, we thought we'd offer you a peek behind the scenes by sharing one of the perks usually reserved for our Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee members. We release one mini-sode every month, sometimes related to the theme for the month and sometimes not. They're usually shorter and a bit more casual. This particular episode is the first mini-sode we ever recorded, and it was the overflow from our regular feed episode released on January 30th, 2024, titled 3 Famous Photographs That Changed How We See Our World. This segment is all about that famous photograph of Marilyn Monroe. You know the one. If you'd like to listen to the rest of our catalog, consider becoming a member through Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. You can find the link to both on our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com. We hope you enjoy the episode. Cheers!
The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Candy. I feel like I just saw you.
I know, right? Yeah. You know what, though? This is like our very first ever, what do you call it? Feature?
Bonus
Bonus material.
A little mini-sode.
Yes.
The
It's our
History
first mini-sode.
The History Chicks call it their mini-sodes. Of course, I love everything the History Chicks do, so I want to do what they do.
Yeah, well, all right, here we go. Our first mini-sode. And we're talking about the most fun thing. I was kind of bummed that this had to get cut from the full episode, but perfect solution that we get to do it here and share it with everybody through our first mini-sode. Marilyn Monroe's flying dress is the subject of this one. Who does not remember seeing that photo? Like, who's not, you know what I'm saying? There's nobody out there who can't picture Marilyn standing there with that beautiful white little halter dress.
I know.
With it coming up around those magnificent legs. You can just see it.
I know.
You can just
there
see
was
it.
a scene in that, I think it was called The House Bunny, where Anna Faris tried to reenact it. And she, when the steam came up, it like burned her and she started screaming. So she made a little spoof of it. Like, what did that actually feel like, Marilyn? Was it really hot? But yeah.
Cute. All right. Well, here we go.
Okay.
I've already referenced in the other episode that I used some of these lists. You know, I Googled, iconic photos or significant photos. And one of the articles I found was CNN's list of the 25 most iconic photographs. And this was another one that made that list. And so not the entire caption, but an excerpt from it read, 5 decades after her death, Marilyn Monroe remains one of Hollywood's most adored sex symbols. Her sultry legacy is often traced back to the 1954 image of her posing over a New York City subway grate in character for the filming of The 7-Year Itch.
Right.
Again, she was in this movie, and this famous photo was in conjunction with a scene that occurs, if you've seen the movie, it's after she and her downstairs neighbor, played by Tom Ewell, catch a movie, and as I believe it says they're coming out, she pauses over this subway grate, and there's a passing train, and the air comes up, and of course it moves her dress, and what a commentator in one of the sources I read, his observation was, especially during that time period, the normal female reaction would have been to, push that dress down. You know, you're embarrassed, or your modesty would make you push that dress down. But instead, she just looks delighted, and
she's
she says,
reveling in it. Yeah.
Yes, she says, "Isn't it delicious?"
Yeah.
And of course, we have the photos that commemorate that. Now, did you tell me that you have a story about the actor who was in that scene with her?
I do, Mr. Tom Ewell. So I said in our previous episode that Brian actually did a show with him. So instead of me telling it, I thought it'd be cool if we called him, since we're a little more casual on this episode. So just give me a second. I'm going to call him and he will tell it to you himself.
I love it.
Okay. Back in the 1980s, right around the time I was in the service, I was doing a show, Guys and Dolls, at a theater in Anchorage, Kentucky. And in the show Guys and Dolls, there is a character. In our show, he had a big bass drum, and it's when the Salvation Army comes marching in. And one of the fellows playing Big Julie, who was one of the gamblers, was a fan of old movies. Now, at the time, I couldn't have told you an old movie actor, Once you marry Ashley, you have to learn all about old movies, so the names start to click better. But I remember that we had done the first weekend of the performances. We were coming back for the rush-up rehearsal. Big Julie comes walking in with one of what I would refer to as a fan book, a book with a lot of pictures of old movies, stars, and whatever. And there was a picture of a man kissing Marilyn Monroe, an old black and white photo. And Big Julie walks in and he looks at the guy and he goes, "That's you, isn't it?" And the fellow, he just kind of looked down. He looked up and he said, "Yeah, that's me." And he said, and Big Julie says, "Yeah, that's Tom Ewell. He did a movie with Marilyn Monroe." And I don't know if he was retired. I don't know what he was doing in Anchorage at the time, but he evidently wanted something to do, I guess. And he came in, auditioned for the show, and he just had a small, I think it sings one song, one pretty simple song, and it was Tom Ewell. That's what they told me. There again, that was back in the 80s. I don't know what year Tom Ewell died, but this fellow was pretty old.
You said he may not have gone by that name because he was a union actor, right?
I would guess now, because I've run into some people in community theater that have told me that when they're union, they're not supposed to be doing community theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I don't know if he was retired, and that
Right.
doesn't matter, and you can do what you want. I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
I just know I was doing a show, and this old man who was in the show turned out to be a real life Hollywood movie actor who had done, a lot of movies, and he was in our little community theater show of Guys and Dolls.
That's so cool. Thank you for
I
telling me that
love
story.
that.
All right, talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
I could not love that story
I know,
anymore.
I know. He's told me that several times over the years. And then when you said you were doing this photo, I was like, oh, wait, we have a connection. I'm like, what degrees of Kevin Bacon is that? So it's like Tom Ewell to Marilyn Monroe, or Marilyn to Tom to Brian to me. So like I'm practically.
You're right there.
I'm right
You're
there.
right there.
It's like I'm next to her.
Exactly. 100%. And we've talked about this so much, both of us being interested in history and also in entertainment. It's like, I don't know, it just hits me because you watch this movie where he is captured at this age where he is so vibrant and
Yeah.
he's, I don't know how old he is in the film, 40s, would you say?
Probably.
And to think of now Brian's story, here
Yeah.
he is all those years later
yeah.
in such a different place in his life. I don't know, it just, things like that just get to me.
It's really neat. He also compared it to, there was in the Broadway show Little Abner, and went on to be a film of Little Abner. The actor who played that retired to another town close to us.
Yes, I've met him. I've heard him speak.
Well, he's passed on now, but I
Yes.
never got to. But Brian loves that movie, and I always wished that they could have crossed paths, and they never
I
did.
believe his name's Peter Palmer,
Yes,
wasn't it?
Peter Palmer. Mhm.
Yes, yes. Oh, how awesome that these acclaimed
Yeah.
actors, later in life when they've kind of given up that particular part of their career, they still are creative and they still
Yes.
act and they come out. And I think about what they contributed to the productions that they were in when
I
they
know.
would go and do something. Think about how amazing Tom had to be
I know,
in that.
I know.
Now I want to see it.
I know.
Oh, if he's got a video.
I'll have to look and see. I've got some of
Yes.
his videos down there. I'll look and see.
Love that story. Well, moving back into the backstory behind this famous photo. William Travilla, who was a leading costume designer for 20th Century Fox, was the one who had the job of making this little dress that would end up becoming famous through this photo and through the movie. At the time, though, he didn't think much of it. In fact, he referred to it as that silly little dress.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, this guy did this all the time, so
Oh,
I
sure.
guess he didn't realize it was going to be so special. But as we know, that dress is also iconic. But what happened was they set up to film this particular scene in the early hours of September 15th, 1954. Now, Marilyn, of course, is positioned. She's standing over the grate on Lexington Avenue. And they actually, we need to tell Anna Faris, wasn't hot air. What they did was they had a crew member crouched in the grill beneath where her heels were, and he had a wind machine.
Oh.
Yes. So thousands of fans and press photographers had shown up, and they had to set up police barricades to hold all those people back.
Wow.
But here's the deal. It was a publicity stunt.
Oh, yeah.
They had purposefully put
Leaked
out
it.
the word that they were filming their scene there because they wanted all these people to show up. They knew it was going to get a lot of press.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Billy Wilder ended up doing 14 takes of this scene, and the crowd is going wild. Like there's so much furor, so much is happening around them. In fact, according to the CNN article, every single time the wind would blow, like males, they said it was a mostly male crowd, they would be yelling, "Higher!"
Oh, gross.
Yeah, right. Marilyn had worn 2 pair of underwear for modesty, and that sounds like a very good thing because her dress would sometimes go all the way up, even over her head on occasion. Like it kept going up, and even though she was trying to catch it for the scene, they said that obviously obviously you had all these people set up. Tons of photographs were taken that
Yeah.
day.
How do we know the one?
Well, now, to be fair, as I was researching it, I saw a lot of other images. But the one that everyone thinks of as the most famous, the most iconic, was taken by a man named Sam Shaw. He was a friend of hers. They had a relationship that went back because they had kind of worked together, and so he had filmed her in other things. But according to, I thought this was so adorable, according to his own granddaughter, Melissa Stevens, she gave a little bit of the backstory of what happened. I'm going to use her words. She said, Sam was asked to be the special still photographer for the 7-Year Itch, starring his friend Marilyn Monroe, who was now famous. It was his idea to use a picture from the movie theater scene as the logo to promote the film, and it was his job to create the images. In New York, front row access was reserved for Sam. So while everybody else is held behind barricades, he's right up front, right?
Okay.
Amidst the roar of the crowd, Marilyn turned, looked directly at her friend, and called out, "Hi, Sam Spade." Marilyn gave all her friends nicknames, and this one was inspired by Humphrey Bogart's character from the Maltese Falcon. Sam clicked the camera and captured Marilyn in what he always referred to as her composition.
Aww.
Isn't that the cutest?
That is really sweet.
So if you look, you see so many photos, but if you look for Sam Shaw's name under it, that's the one that they consider to be the most iconic, the most famous. And probably
it's because she's looking at her friend.
Smiling right at him,
Yeah.
kind of, yes. And I'm sure, like, honestly, I didn't necessarily see this, but because he was the one who was the official photographer, I'm sure his photo's the one that went out to all the sources.
Yeah.
Well, several of the articles that I saw talked about, Marilyn was Marilyn. Like, all this happening around her, it could have thrown anybody else off their game. Your dress is flying over your head. This is a little awkward. But they said, of course, she just handled it all. She was so poised. She stayed her beautiful, giggly, flirty self, just laughed through it all, threw her head back, and just, stayed in character because they were filming this scene. Between takes, her usual Marilyn charm. But we referenced this before in one of our previous episodes. Her husband was there.
He was really jealous, right?
Yes. New York Yankees center fielder Joe DiMaggio was there during the filming, and he was furious.
Yeah.
In fact, Billy Wilder apparently wrote about this in a book. Here's a quote. In his book, Billy Wilder described the look of death on DiMaggio's face as he stormed off set to stew in the nearby St. Regis Hotel. Several biographers have chronicled the stormy argument that ensued in Suite 1105 when Monroe returned. It was one of the many straws that allegedly ended a tumultuous marriage. Back in Los Angeles, 3 weeks later, she announced their divorce. Marilyn splits with Joe over sexy pictures, ran the Daily News headline.
So they're saying it's because of this picture.
They think that this was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Wow.
Exactly. And that's sad. I think that puts a little, brings that down, right? This fun photo. Well, the other interesting thing, to me at least, was we just talked about the fact that the director did 14 takes. Never intended to use that in the film. This was all a publicity stunt. They literally went and did that scene on a soundstage in Hollywood. That's the one that appears in the movie because the crowd reactions, it was so loud they didn't get any footage they could use.
Yeah.
But that's the story behind that famous photo.
Well, that's so cool.
I know.
Good job, Candy.
Thanks. I had so much fun with this.
Good.
It makes sense, right? We both love history. We both love entertainment. So putting the two together, the arts, how could we not have loved this idea?
Absolutely.
We might have to do more of this.
I think we should.
Maybe we'll come back to this topic sometime.
I think we should. Tell us some other pictures that we should look up, everybody.
Yes. Send in more listener suggestions.
Yeah.
All right, Ashley. Well, that's it. Our very first mini-sode.
I loved it.
Yeah, you know what? Here's something we should try down the road.
What's that?
Videotaping.
Oh,
Since our mini-sodes will be a little
Yes,
shorter.
That's true. Then we
we
still have to actually look good, though.
Well, if we know in advance.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, cheers to you guys. Thank you for joining us as we did our very first ever foray into bonus material. And have a great day, guys.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. See, now it's in my head.
Bitumen, right? Bitumen?
Yes.
Bitumen.
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 Bitumen. Okay. If you love what we do, please rate and review our show. Or you can become a supporter by making a donation through buymeacoffee.com/scandalwaterpod. Whether a single gift or a recurring monthly donation, it would go a long way towards supporting our work and allowing us to keep the tea brewing.
At our website, www.scandalwaterpodcast.com, you can submit questions or your own story ideas, access our sources and show notes, see the merch we offer for sale, and more. You can join the Scandal Water community through our Scandal Water Podcast Facebook page or follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Scandal Water Podcast.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown.
That's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music, Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reith, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the host during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.